We continue to watch the Atlantic this morning for more tropical activity. I do think October is going to be an active month as far as tropical development, especially closer to home. And when I say that, I mean like the Gulf, the Caribbean, off the coast of the Southeast, etc. But we are watching a tropical wave that has a decent shot to become our next named storm as we move over the next several days or so. So we'll speak on everything in this video. We'll go over all model guides from overnight to this morning. We'll show you some fancy graphics that support that active period upcoming, especially as we get into the middle portion of the month. Then we'll speak on today's weather across the entire lower 48, and then we'll round it off with a Bible devotion if you want to join us for that. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it, and if anybody has anything I can pray about or pray over, please put in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling this morning. Let's make sure this is going to work, and it is. So is there anything, to circle out there right now? We always like to start these tropical updates. We're taking a broad look at the entire Atlantic. I will say there is some activity in the northern Gulf. I was watching this, a few days back, but I don't think this is going to turn into a tropical system or anything like that, but this is bringing some unsettled weather in the northern Gulf, going to bring a lot of shower and storm activity along the Gulf coastline. Throughout the weekend, we got some activity right in here in the southwest Atlantic, kind of outside the Turks Caicos Islands, the Bahamas. There is a 10% chance that we could get some sort of tropical development that might happen right into here. And I mean, regardless, this is going to bring a lot of unsettled weather to Florida. We've had unsettled weather over the last couple of days, and I think we will continue to have that sort of wet pattern over the next several days or so. But right now, not expecting anything to develop in the short term at least. So what about elsewhere? We are watching this big tropical wave right here that has a 50% chance of developing to a depression or our next named storm, which is Jerry, between now and the next 7 days. This has not really increased since last night, and there is big time model disagreement on this. All model guidance shows something, but there's a few runs that are a lot more aggressive than other runs. So we'll speak on that as we go. But I do want to mention this before we get past this. I'm really watching as we get past day 7, maybe even past day 10, really the middle portion of the month. Basically all these areas right into here. I really think, and this favors Climo also, and also favors a favorable MJO pulse of rising air also that's going to move from the Pacific to the Western Atlantic, which is all these 3 check marks I just did, this area. I really think this is going to be an area we need to watch as we get, especially to the middle portion of the month. So, with all that being said, let's continue to move forward here and move past this. The latest from the National Hurricane Center, this is pretty much a 2 a.m. update from overnight. We'll have another update here in about an hour. This is where our tropical wave is, right about here where this orange X is, and it has that 50% chance of developing this orange area between now and the next 7 days. So we're not expecting this to develop in the short term, as in the next 48 hours or so. But as we get into early next week, this has a shot to become our next named storm. And it's a pretty huge area of what we call the MDR, the Central Atlantic, all the way into the Western Atlantic. And this is getting into a very small portion of the Eastern Caribbean. But it's already kind of hooking a little bit. And Climo does support anything that forms out here to eventually kind of curve and stay out to sea. But we always got to continue to track because we do have some outliers, right? So let's move past this. We are watching a little bit closer to home where this yellow X is. There is a 10% chance that something could get going, something tropical could get going off this area of low pressure right here over the Bahamas. It's just bringing a lot of unsettled weather. There's a little bit of a spin ongoing, but we're not overly worried about that for now. As far as anything else, nothing to note per the National Hurricane Center, but like I said, we need to watch the Caribbean, Gulf area, and then the southwest. Just this entire region right here, we really need to watch, and I'll get deep into that right now. So, latest from the Euro. We're going to start all model guidance off with Monday morning, so it's October the 6th, okay? You're going to just see a lot of green, splashes of yellow, things like that, and the wave is so weak that comes out of the main development region on the Euro that it's really hard to show you guys. But I do want you guys to know there's going to be a lot of moisture that's going to build really everywhere in the Western Atlantic. I'm going to say the term the two words Western Atlantic a lot over the next several days, I think. Really a lot this month. Anytime I say Western Atlantic, I'm meaning this area right here, the Gulf, and the Caribbean. Okay? Just include everything in that. All right? So I'll probably repeat that multiple times over the next several videos. But as we're getting to Wednesday morning, not really anything to note. And then we get into Thursday morning of next week, October the 9th. This is our wave. It's very weak. And I think because it's staying so weak, it kind of hangs out lower in latitude, further south, but it never really develops. And then we get into like a week from today. Whatever's left over of that wave is right here. It never develops on the operational Euro. Okay? And then it finally tries to get going here. Basically between Bermuda, the Bahamas, and the Caribbean. And it just never really gets going. And it finally just fades away and heads out into the North Atlantic. Now, what about after we get past day 10? You're going to see a lot of moisture kind of hanging out down here. Okay? But nothing really develops. A big broad area of low pressure does finally get going, like the middle portion of the month. Like this is October 15th. So it is way out there, but you get a low pressure. And man, I'm telling you, this is an area I'm really watching right into here. Okay? And you get this little spin up, nothing concerning looking at all, but, you know, we just got to watch. So the Euro shows nothing concerning, right? And none of this should be concerning to anybody. When I start to use the word concerning as in I am concerned, then I would say that we need to be a little concerned. Not saying I'm any more special than anyone else, okay? But I typically try to stay away from that word unless I'm actually concerned, right? So what about the GFS? Now, we only got about 10 days worth of GFS. That's all we need, really. The GFS continues to be very aggressive with this tropical wave out in the Atlantic. So we continue to move forward. Nothing between now and about midweek, and then we have a Category 2 or 3 hurricane starting to sneak up on your screen right here. That is a big hurricane. So that's totally different. We go back to the Euro in the same time frame. I have to go all the way back here. Okay, this is Thursday. This is late Wednesday night. This coming Thursday morning on the GFS has a hurricane, let's just call it that. And it only has like a tropical wave on the Euro. That is a huge difference, only 120 hours out. We continue. This turns into what looks to be a major hurricane off the GFS, just northeast of the Leeward Islands. So it begins to turn and avoid making any kind of impacts to you guys. And this heads north and is a pretty strong, very impressive looking hurricane based off this run. And this is between day 7 and day 10. Okay, and then it looks to sort of just be heading north. Now, we continue to watch this just for Bermuda, right? But this looks to be safely kind of just staying way out in the North Atlantic. But at the end of the run, you got a low pressure forming right here, kind of the same area as the Euro was forming it. Now, I have a feeling, and as you can tell, the tabs have not loaded here, so the GFS run is still loading. After this, we're probably going to get something crazy that probably gets going down here. So let's actually flip this and look at the OOZ. So the run overnight last night. Not as impressive down there, but it does finally spin something up. And we get to this is like the middle of the month. So October 15th, 16th, and it develops a tropical storm and takes that's exactly what, and I'm going to try to remember to pull this up in tomorrow morning's video, but the Climo paths, basically the average paths in October, favor exactly what the GFS is showing, just some kind of weird track, and then it has another one right behind it that forms way out in the 300 plus hour range. But listen, this supports a favorable phase. It supports a lot of things. It supports Climo. It supports it supports the phase we're about to enter. I really think this area is going to pop off. In fact, I'm gonna take a risk here and say that I have not been as confident about something this hurricane season than this. I think we're gonna have a late active push with hurricane season. So what about the Euro AI model? Does it show anything? It follows the Euro as far as our wave, right? Here comes our wave sneaking up on our screen, just a blob of dark green supporting low chances of tropical development. First off, it tries to pop some sort of low pressure off about a week from today off the coast of the southeast. That kind of heads away, and then it tries to develop some sort of other low pressure right here. It flings this over Florida. I think you guys got some wet times coming up in Florida. And then what you notice here, this is at 10 days, right? This is like Not this coming Monday, but next Monday, October the 13th. Look at all this green down there. There's just a lot of moisture building. You got some little spin up here. And then we get to 300 hours out. It never really gets anything going. At the very end, the run, it tries to do something. There's nothing, but this is just an operational run. I want to show you the icon from overnight. Okay, the icon tries to get something going off that 10% risk area. It drifts some energy here in the far eastern Gulf, and actually tries to pop off a low pressure right here. Okay, and the icon likes what the GFS is showing as far as a strong hurricane sneaking up on your screen right there, and this gets a little bit too close for comfort here in the northern Leeward Islands, and does kind of support what some model guidance is also showing for, like the GFS, for a tropical system trying to develop off the east coast here. And we have almost a tropical storm trying to develop a week from today, sort of around the Florida Keys. And we got what looks to be a major hurricane just northeast of the Leeward Islands. So, you know, it really supports a period of active tropical activity. And I know the Icon Canadian, the Icon did well, by the way, with Imelda. It nailed it. But, some model guidance nails this, some model guidance nail that, and then we ignore that, and then it gets a win, and then we show a little bit more attention to it. So it all kind of balances out sometimes. Now, historically speaking, the Euro, especially in winter weather, is king. But anyways, the Canadian model likes the idea of something developing out of this tropical wave. That has a 50% chance right now to develop, but it quickly turns this north, and it's well east of Bermuda. And then is there anything at the end of the run towards the Canadian? Yes, there's a big blob of moisture right here that is probably well on its way to developing into something. The thing that is not concerning but has my attention, of course, you're going to see this down here. This is the Euro ensemble, which, by the way, has kind of backed off. You can still see a lot of L's down here. Remember, this makes up 51 members. You can still see some members down here, but there's not quite as many. So you're going to see this area move kind of into this area. But I want you to watch, once we get between 7 to 10 days, how much this area down here lights up. Okay? So as we start to move, we're getting into next Thursday. That's a pretty still a decent signal for a tropical wave developing into our next named storm. So this could be Jerry. I wouldn't assume it's going to be Jerry, but it could be. So what we get into this next Friday morning, we get a week from today. So this is next Saturday morning. At this point, if there's going to be some sort of tropical wave that develops into our next named storm or depression, it's going to be probably right in here a week from today. Okay, are we going to have a system? You got some members still getting south, sneaking into the Eastern Caribbean, some making, impact to Puerto Rico, the Northern Leeward Islands, but not a ton of members. Now, this is when we get between day 7 and 10. I want you to watch this entire area right here, how it begins to light up. See how bang, like at the final frame there. This is all the way into early, not this coming week, but next week, the next week after that. Okay, this is like the 13th. You see all these L's starting to pop off? Now, not a whole lot, but if you go past 10 days, and normally I don't do this, but I want to show you this. Watch, this is at day 7, okay? We're going to go to the same time frame we were just at. This is day 10. Okay, we got a lot of scattered members all over the place. Of course, the stronger members are going to show up more in that greenish white color. But watch as we get past day 10. There is a huge clustering of members right into here. I know you're thinking I only see 2 L's, but this is shown a little bit differently. So if I flip it to this, actually this. You see all those L's on your screen? And you see the brightening of the orange here and almost a yellow? That is a strong signal right into here for tropical development just past day 10. And I know this is far out, and this could change on the Euro ensemble. Something is in here. I'm not going to guarantee you something's going to form here, but something is throwing some red flags into this area. Okay. Now we know that normally what forms down here has to go north in some form or fashion. Now, whatever forms down here, if something does, whether it drifts this way and kind of goes like that, whether it drifts into the Gulf and goes like that, whether it goes over here, or whether it goes like that, it's got to come north. Therefore, it's got to hit somebody. So we don't want anything forming down here. Okay, and I think this is definitely an area to watch. So, you know, you move past, even further past day 10, and you got members just everywhere. And if I flip it to this, I mean, you got a lot of L's scattered across. So if we look at the GFS ensemble from overnight, you're going to see, remember, this only makes up 21 members. So you see more L's. It's more of an oppressive signal if you see more L's, say, on the GFS ensemble than the Euro ensemble. Okay, so there's your signal for the tropical wave that has a 50% chance to develop, okay? And then we get, you know, it's definitely still got some concerning, you know, you still got some members that are pretty strong trying to affect the Eastern Caribbean islands. But watch, I mean, you can already see it lighten up. This is at day 7. So a week from today, watch this entire area light up. Okay. Watch out, like, boom. I mean, you got just, I mean, it's just everywhere. Okay. And I mean, so, and then you get past day 10, and I mean, listen, that's a pretty loud signal. But I don't want to just show you the aggressive stuff. I want to show you what the Google DeepMind ensembles are showing too, which is done pretty well. Shows the signal for the wave developing. That's what this is. It definitely shows it curving, but it doesn't show hardly anything. This is 312 hours out, guys. It doesn't support the idea of the Euro ensemble and the GFS ensemble. So I think it's important to show attention to all of this, right? But this does not support what we're seeing with this. Okay, and I'm going to actually pull up this and make it larger. Okay, let's see. I'm going to make it much larger there. Hopefully you can see it pretty well. And do I have... yeah, I figured that was going to happen. Let's see if we can... Nah, it ain't going to let us do it, guys. So, you know, we're just going to have to ignore... You guys are just going to have to put your bifocals on, all right? So, this is what you call... Basically, this is the MJO forecast. So, the areas in green you see, that is rising air. Supports more convective activity, more tropical activity. Doesn't mean... It doesn't guarantee it. It just supports it. And then the brown areas, those are... that's basically sinking air, more dry air. So I just want you to keep in mind that we're at the 4th of October. So we're right in this area right here. So if you look very closely, there's a lot of sinking air over the Atlantic. Okay. So now that you see that, I want you to focus on the 6th through the 14th. Okay. We're done with this. Okay. We can X that out. So now that we know that, now let's try to pull this up. Okay, let's make it a little bit larger. Ooh-wee, that's big, ain't it? All right, so I'll get my face out of the way. If you look through the 6th through the 8th, we still have sinking air over areas of the Atlantic. Okay, doesn't mean we can't get tropical activity. But you see this area right into here, that green? Look how more amplified it looks as we get through the 9th through the 11th. So when is that? That is a little under a week from today. So this area starts to move into the Western Atlantic. What do we call the Western Atlantic? The Gulf, the Caribbean, around the off the coast of the Southeast. So this is going to support a pulse of tropical activity. Then we go from the 12th to the 14th, and it's pretty much covering up the entire Western Atlantic, even Central Atlantic. So the 9th to the 14th, and I think onward, I think things are going to pop off closer to home, the Western Atlantic. I really think that Model Guys is going to start to bite on this. I think that it's inevitable, honestly. Am I saying there's going to be a hurricane that hits the Gulf coastline or X place, A place? No, I'm not. I don't know. But I think that I think everything is pointing to a pretty active period. So now that we know that, let's talk about today's weather. We're going to continue to watch this. No point in doubling up the videos yet. But, come on, get off my screen here. let's see. All right. I don't know if what I just did there. I am really. All right, we're gonna go back to that. All right, so I don't know why that's doing that. I think I done messed up something, guys, but we're gonna keep it going. No data. Okay. Yeah. There we go. All right, we're rolling now. Okay, I'm sorry. Little 30-second lag there. All right, so this is the radar. This is today's weather. So we got some moisture going across the Rockies, and that's what I get for trying to pull up an image and stuff like that. But we got some stuff going across the Rockies. A lot of just energy in general. As far as the Gulf, there's that moisture I was mentioning that's chilling out right here. We got a little bit of onshore flow with some moisture trying to get to the Georgia, east coast of Florida coastline and the low country of South Carolina coastline. Let's move past this and let's look at this. And this is watches, warnings, and advisories. Check out the winter alerts starting to show up. You know, this purple color, that's winter weather advisories. This pink color right here, winter storm warnings. This hot pink color, this is red flag warning. Starting to get dry across the middle of the country. In the eastern U.S., we do have flood watches across the east coast of Florida. But outside of that, eastern U.S. looks pretty quiet. Now, as far as weather today, severe weather chances, this dark green, that is a marginal risk of severe weather, level 1 out of 5. So we'll have to watch for some of these storms to pack a punch today. But we do have a risk of thunderstorms across the entire Gulf coastline, all the way into the southeast coastline. You know, no big time severe weather or anything like that. As far as excessive rainfall, just a few marginal risk out there, nothing too crazy one way or the other. As far as the weather across the southeast, there is just that broad spin hanging out over the northern Gulf. This will continue to bring a lot of rains across, you know, southern areas of Louisiana. We'll continue to get scattered downpours across Florida. And then as we get into later tonight, maybe more action makes it to the South Carolina, Georgia coastline, to form some thunderstorms as moist air begins to overtake that dry air. But as we're waking up tomorrow morning, just some showers and storms along the central Gulf coastline, as just a lot of energy is honestly just building down here for what we just talked about in the tropics. Now, as far as the Northeast, it's another quiet fall-like day. It's a little warmer, but it just continues to be very dry up here. There's not a whole lot to mention. Sorry for my folks in the Northeast. Just not a whole lot to talk about, but hope you guys are doing well and having a great fall so far. We get into this evening. We're going to watch some thunderstorms that could move into eastern Colorado. Outside of that, guys, I mean, nothing. As far as the north central U.S., it's quiet across the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes region, but big rainmaker is going to move in overnight across areas of the Dakotas, western Nebraska, western Dakotas at first, and then this will move into the central areas of those states, and then we'll start to make it into tomorrow morning, and we're going to wake up to a washout across North Dakota. Maybe a little bit of snow falling in the Black Hills of South Dakota. We'll have to watch out for that. And then the western U.S., a lot of energy spinning around as low pressure ejects off this trough. So this is this afternoon, this evening, heavy snow falling in, you know, the higher elevations of Wyoming, Montana, Bighorn Mountains getting some big snow, and just some higher elevations of Utah getting some snow. And we could get some thunderstorms across the lower elevations of Wyoming and surrounding states. And then we start to move into tomorrow. Some cooler air filters in, so some of this moisture might start off as rain, switches to snow across the Rockies, the northern Rockies. So in fact, as we get into tomorrow, just flat out more snow than rain across some of these areas. And, you know, you look at snowfall between now and the next 36 to 48 hours, a lot of heavy snow. Some of this is well over a foot and a half of snow. Some people might get 2 feet. So, almost swallowed my own spit there. I can't stand when I do that. Eastern U.S., you know, it's warming up pretty much for everybody, 70s, 80s. You get, once again, you know, closer to, I would say, west of the Appalachian Mountains, closer to the Mississippi River. It's warming up. You know, record-breaking heat all the way up to the upper Midwest. I mean, but I don't think this is going to stick around much longer, guys. So, but temperatures out west, definitely some cooler air with a trough digging in through. I mean, a chilly day across the west, fall-like day. So enjoy that if that is your groove, if that is your vibe. So let's do a Bible devotion. See if we have an update on the tropics as far as that. Nope, we do not. So this morning, a short scripture, 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verse 13 through 14. It says, "Be alert, Stand firm in the faith, be courageous, be strong, do everything in love. So a couple things I wrote down here. Be aware, temptations are everywhere. Stay rooted in the truth. Don't let any of these worldly temptations sway you from that truth. Stay strong, but remember not to lean on your own strength, but the Lord's strength. Let love be the driver behind everything you do. I mean, everything you say, all the actions, everything you think, and that is tough. I know it is. Trust me. It's not easy. But listen, it's not easy, but that's when you lean on the Lord's strength. And I'm not talking about like, muscle strength, physical strength. I'm talking about spiritual strength, emotional strength, things like that. Your spiritual strength should be priority number one, right? Your spiritual strength will connect you to that emotional strength, to that physical strength. And I think all of them, when you really are really in tune, when you are in tune with all three, and when you're really in tune with the spiritual strength, I do think that allows you to be in tune with the other two. It doesn't immediately make all that click, but that is the table setter, right? That's priority number one. God's number one, priority number one in everything you do, in every action you do. So as far as, let love be the driver behind everything you do, which is that verse 14, do everything in love. I know that sounds simple, but I think that's huge. And it's hard because sometimes we want to give advice to people. We want to critique people. You want to help people, but you're doing it to validate yourself. You're doing, I'm sometimes I can be bad about this. Sometimes, and guys, I'm always vulnerable with you guys. I don't want to pretend like I got it all together. Okay. But, sometimes I have a bad habit of really going out my way to help others and do all these things for others. And sometimes I just would like, that person to say, hey, man, thank you for doing that. But you're not always going to get that. And I think we all kind of want that in a way. We all like that pat on the back, right? But if you're doing it out of pure love, you're doing it to glorify God, I really think that you won't worry about that. That's when God works in it. It's almost like and I've used this probably 4 or 5 times when doing these Bible devotions. It's almost like you see someone on the side of the street asking for money, right? And you have, you just feel the urge to help them, whether you're called to do it, whether you just want to do it in the moment. So you give them $20, right? It's the right thing to do to go home and to tell everybody, to tell everybody in your cousin's uncle's dog's hamster that you gave money to maybe a homeless guy on the side of the road, and you want everybody to say, good job, man, good job. No, that's not the way you do it. And I'm not saying that I do that, but to me, for example, when I in situations like that, I have to feel a deep calling to do something like that. I can't force myself to do it. But don't want to get off track here. But the point is, in an example like that, you act out of love. Maybe you give someone $20 just asking for on the side of the road. You feel called to do it. And after that, you don't sit there and you worry if that person's going to turn around and go, get drugs or go to the liquor store or something. You don't even think on that. You let God work in and do the rest. And it's more of a you thing than a them thing. God will work in that person's life. Or, it just depends. If that's the way the situation's supposed to happen, it's more of a you thing, right? You did what you were called to do in that moment, and then you let God do the magic. You let God work in, right? So, magic, that's not what I meant. You guys know that. But you let God do the work, right? So, anyways, that's all I got. Thank y'all for tuning in. Y'all have a wonderful start to your weekend. Today is our last soccer game. So hoping it goes well. I'm excited. My youngest girl has had a really, really good season. My oldest girl has had a really good season too. But their team has not won a game. We have 8 games. They're 0-7. It's about having fun, but I'm really hoping that they can get a win today. That would be really awesome for the team. But anyways, I hope you guys have some awesome plans and have a wonderful weekend. God bless all y'all. We'll talk again tomorrow morning.